The one that we saw at your school.
Claire?
Claire, yes.
Who else?
That's it. She has yogurt.
Is she eating lunch?
I don't know.
Wait
Don't do that.
Okay, come eat.
Okay.
Better? Yes? Hi, Claire Bear. Oh, wait, I can't hear you. Hold on. Oh, I love thee. Oh, my gosh. I have to take it. No, do it again. Do it again. I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Oh, wait. You're muted. Oh, no, do it again. Do it again. Do it again.
Backwards. That's how it comes up when you hold it up.
Gosh. Oh, yeah. That makes me so happy. I love it. Got a screenshot. You guys did so awesome today.
How did you think it went? Okay.
So good.
Lacey, we had every single teacher but one.
Oh my, that's never happened.
Regular meetings.
We didn't even have that when it was the first days of school and it was mandatory. Right?
Uh-huh.
And John Kurt and Ann Lovelace were the first two to show up.
And then Baton and Davies signed on a little bit late, but I thought that was pretty cool.
That was cute. What's funny about Baton and Davies is they've both, hey guys, I'm gonna call me over. They both they're eating lunch. They both this year had me help them get their Google Classroom set up, and so they both in this week have been like reaching out to me like, I'm so glad you got our Google Classroom set up. At one point, Mr. Davies, which was really Lynn, right? Mr. Davies was like, hey, can I have people email me stuff? And I said, why would you do that? You have Google Classroom.
Oh, Miss Barnes just hopped on.
Hi, Miss Barnes.
Oh, you're muted. Hold on. There you go. Hi, Miss Barnes.
Hi.
How are you?
We're just waiting for people to join and hanging out.
Hey, Claire, I'm gonna go plug my computer in, and I'll come back around 11:30.
Okay, I mean 1:30, yeah.
1:30. Were you guys coming upstairs? Hey, go back downstairs. Okay, yeah, I'm muting myself. Can you mute me?
Yeah.
Mute.
as well as just the
Whose voice do I hear?
contracts.
Sorry, I'm listening to the news. I
Oh,
muted
okay.
it and then I unmuted it. Sorry.
You're fine.
Others will work.
Oh, it's just. So far, it's just Amy. We'll see. It's still 5 minutes.
Oh, Amy left. Who left? Where did Amy go?
Hey guys, so you need some songs to get you through the day. Here are a few. I think I did it again. I just touched my face. It's the new cardinal sin. Oh baby, I thought I never did it, but I guess I do. Like 5 times a minute. I do it so much, it's scary, but it's involuntary. Ooh, baby, baby, I did it again. I just that is why we. I'm not that disciplined. You are my favorite. Are you contagious? The social distance rules say go 6 feet that way. You know I love you, but I just can't touch you. We can hug again, maybe someday. But don't.
Oh.
I'm listening to social parodies because nobody's here.
Was it the one that I just got one too? Someone said yes.
It's
That
like
was the one I
90s
was like,
pop songs.
so funny. So good to see you.
I know we had one teacher hop on and then she left like right away, and I was like, oh.
Oh,
So
shoot.
we'll see. It's still a few
Okay.
minutes.
Yeah.
I made a big old long thing and thought about what I was gonna say a bunch, and we'll see. Let me turn this off.
Yeah, I like it.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I could hear you. It was cutting off a little bit, but I think it's good now.
Okay. We had
Let
trouble
me-
in our Zoom a little while ago.
Okay.
I don't know,
I'm
we'll
just trying to
see.
close all my tabs because I've got a lot going on here. Okay. Cool.
Oh. I even made a meme of my kid that's coming up shortly.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Wow.
My meme of my kindergartner doing online learning.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty bad. But I'm gonna save it for when people get here. I hope people come.
Yeah, I know. It's a good topic.
We had one from 11:30 to 12:30. So I don't know if like an hour break is enough for them to feel like they want to hop on another one, you know?
Yeah. I like it because it's kind of like informal, come, go, take what you need. Hey, Lacey.
Well, and Monday I was making it a little more formal because people have like no idea about online learning. And then Monday I was just gonna do like pop in and ask Canvas and get help,
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I haven't gotten much questions about Canvas, more Google Classroom, if anything, because a lot haven't done any LMS, especially the younger ones. High school, I think you guys are off like pretty good with LMS if they've started already,
Hi, Christine. Hi, Eric.
Hey.
Hey. Oh, and Rochelle.
Ciao.
Look who's joining me in the top corner back there.
Yay.
Do you see him?
I do.
That's my hey from ISTE.
Oh, nice.
Way up there.
I like it.
We're just waiting for some people to join and then we'll get started.
Okay, sounds good.
Good to see you, Rochelle.
Good to see you too. How's everybody doing?
Good, good. Just I'm in quarantine now. I came back from Peru and one day before I got locked for 30 days down there.
Oh,
So I'm happy to be home.
yeah. Oh my gosh. That is crazy.
Yeah.
This is all crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad you got back.
Yeah.
Unmute. Trying to unmute you in case anybody wants to talk. Feel
Hi.
free to unmute yourself if you want to talk.
Hi, Rochelle. I miss your smiling face.
Oh, I miss you guys too.
Just stand at the end of my hallway and then like wave at me.
Right.
Eric, tell Matt that he can join from like a cell phone. He can join from any other kind of device that he has.
Okay, I'll let him know because he got his military laptop to work to download it, but he's getting all kinds of problems with his MacBook, so we may have to do a work order and try to get them to do something remote.
Hi, Mr. Kern.
And you saw that they can do that, right, Captain Headland? They can do a remote takeover of his device and try and troubleshoot as long as he submits a work order.
Yes, in fact, we've had to do it with some of our other technology equipment before.
Okay.
Oh, Miss Barnes, welcome back.
Hi, Lynn. Hey, Lynn. Did you were you able to connect to Remind? Oh, she's trying to connect. Never mind.
Let me see.
And then I got on the Remind, so, and I'm giving the information to Matt so he can get on there as well.
And Lynn, if you can't connect by audio, you can always use the chat function. Oh, there you go. Now your audio popped in. You can talk now if you want. You just have to unmute yourself. I'm going to give it like a couple more minutes, but thank everybody for being here. So, yeah, maybe like 1 minute. I don't know. Are we ready to start? What do you guys think?
The Zoom sign-in is a little bit slow on our computers compared to my experience in the past. It took about 3 minutes for mine to hook up.
Wow. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll give it another like 2 minutes and we could just visit and be social.
That would be nice.
That sounds good to me.
Is that Lynn's voice I just heard?
No, it's Christine.
It's Christine. I'm like, you have no pictures. Oh, nope. There's Mariko.
No, I guess I'll show myself.
Oh, Christine. Hi. I was thinking other Christine.
No, not Miss Reese.
You want to say hi to everybody?
Oh, who do we got there? Oh, we got a little one. Oh.
One of three. I have my 3 nephews. So, Lacey, I understand the challenges, keeping them entertained.
I took half their lunch and set them in front of the Magic School Bus right now. So they're with Mrs. Frizzle. I think we're in good hands.
Woo!
You know,
That you actually fed
Barney,
them.
when William and Nora were young, that was 45 minutes of freedom every time Barney came on. Yeah. So I got to find
I lost.
something that gets these kids all have some more freedom for.
My brother-in-law is doing some construction at his house, and so they had to abandon or surrender their trampoline. So on Saturday, the best.
Oh, yeah. The boys love I have an in-ground trampoline, and they love it. I have to go get another one of the covers because they've worn out. But yeah, those trampoline entertainment for the afternoons. All right, you better get going so I get this conference going.
Okay.
All right, let me.
Those people that are just joining us, we heard there was a delay in logging on. Can anybody tell me how long it took them to log on? Sonia or Kay?
Hey, thank you for inviting us, Claire. It took me literally 2 seconds because I just realized there was a Zoom.
Well, this is more an FYI, but you're welcome to join us.
Thank you. Learning is important. Thank you.
So, thank you for coming.
I just had to find the email. That took me the longest time. Email that
You mean from the 200 I sent the other day?
Yeah. It's like, which one was that again?
And Miss Reese or Miss Vasquez, look at the baby.
Multitasking.
Oh, there he is.
So I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Let me scoot back a little so it's not just my teeth in the picture. So I wanted to have this webinar to kind of go over like some high level thoughts about online learning. So, and I was a little nervous, so I made myself a Google Sheets to kind of, Google Slides to kind of talk off of. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to sharing that with you guys. You can still keep tiling each other and using the chat, but I'm going to share a resource that I made just to kind of organize my thoughts. And then, so I wish I could see what I'm, let's see. Okay, can somebody unmute and tell me if they can see the screen share that I just put up?
Claire,
Let's practice.
Yeah, we're on screen
Claire,
one.
are you recording this or should I record this?
I'll share it with everyone when we're done.
You're recording it?
Yeah, I'm recording it and I'll share the PowerPoint. So I just wanted to kind of talk about, like, I know there's a lot of fear about going online, and feel free to jump in with questions in the chat. And we have Tamara and Rose and Miss Allen and Miss Rivera all here, so they can kind of answer questions too as we go. But I just wanted to kind of give you an overview of kind of what does research say about teaching and learning online and the direction we're going. I don't want to overwhelm anybody, and by no means do you have to do every single thing in this presentation, but pick some stuff and start there, and then start small and move forward. So I want to kind of show you my meme that I made today. I'm a bad parent that memed my child.
I deal with that every day.
So this is my kindergartner in his first day of online Skype lessons with his teacher, and he pressed the wrong button. Dad pushed the button right as he did this, and you can see they haven't combed their hair. There's Christmas decorations up in the background. I just thought it kind of like encapsulated what's going on in education right now, right? Like, here's this, and kindergartners are still kindergartners, and high schoolers are still high schoolers. You know, kindergartners will still pick their nose, and high schoolers will still do everything we know that they do. So I just thought, you know, let's give ourselves a break and give the kids a break, and remember we're all new at this. So that's my little humor to start it out. So one of the most common questions that people face or ask when they first go online is, how can I enhance my student experience with my online course? Oftentimes people try to replicate the face-to-face things they do, or they're not sure where to begin. So I wanted to give everybody an overview of kind of all the options and what's out there, and what are some simple tips and tricks and ideas to keep in your brain. And not so much a click here, click there, click here, but like more of what should I be thinking about and how should I change my teacher voice as I move online. So, and then is the chat running?
Yes.
Okay, so if there's any chat questions, or if somebody wants to read me out chat questions as they come up. So I wanted to go over, okay, I'm a terrible speller, so I'm going to use the word terminology right here. So I want to go over some terminology that comes up a lot in online. So what we've been doing is face-to-face with digital resources, right? Our classes have been a large portion face-to-face in the same room with the kids, but we've had these little pieces and parts of online learning, right? We've had Canvas, we've had Google Classroom, we've had STEM scopes, we've had all these kind of little things coming in, but we haven't coalesced it into a well-formed online product. So that would be face-to-face with digital resources. Blended is what they consider 51% to 99, that should be 50 to 99% online. Some people put the line a little different. So a lot of times blended looks like the kids come in once a month and meet with their teacher face-to-face. Or the kids come in and they take proctored testing live in front of a human being, but the rest of their class is online. Because of what's going on in the environment right now, we're rapidly moving to 100% online where we can't have contact with our students. So I just want you to kind of have those words in the back of your brain and think about how rapidly we're progressing, right? Normally when we're educators, we would move from face-to-face to a blended and then maybe dip our toes into online, but we're going straight from 0 to 100. And I know that's hard, and that's part of what I want to kind of share about today. Some other words that, is my audio coming through okay?
Yep.
Okay. Some other words I want to kind of talk about are synchronous and asynchronous learning. In synchronous learning, students and teachers participate at the same time, but at different locations. So synchronous would be what we're doing right now, like I mentioned this morning. We're all on, it's the same time of day, we're all interacting with each other live, but we're in different locations. Asynchronous is when teachers and students participate at different times and different locations. So that would be like you have a resource in Canvas, kids log in, and they maybe do discussion posts and interact back and forth together. And so you want to kind of think and be mindful about what's the best tool to do things. I think sometimes there's a tendency to say, let's all hop on at 10 a.m. and have a live lesson on, I don't know, parts of the body or whatever we're teaching this week. But that can be hard for students in the current environment. As I mentioned this morning, families may be sharing devices, high school students may be working. And so synchronous is probably better kept to social or support or tutoring or help or office hours is probably when synchronous is going to be kind of the way you want to go. Asynchronous is going to be the way you want to go for more of your direct instruction, your discussion boards, your student interaction, that kind of stuff. But they're both important to think about when and why to use each of them. So do we have any questions about synchronous versus asynchronous before I move on? No, we're good. Okay. So,
wait, hold on a second, Claire. I just want to, can I give an example as a parent, what I've already received from like elementary, as an elementary parent? So Dante is in kindergarten, and every day in kinder, they use a 6-step phonics lesson. Is posting a video of going through the 6 steps phonics lesson, and part of it is like sight words. She'll hold up a word and it'll be like, I'm going to say the word, or I'm going to hold up the word, student, you're going to say the word at home, and then I'm going to echo it back to you. And she waits, and she says, mute your audio, right? So it's like a video that's, I would call that, I'm checking my understanding. That's still asynchronous because the kid can watch the video at their pre-K kid is going to have a Zoom meeting with all of his classmates next Wednesday at 10 a.m. just so the teacher can check in and make sure everyone's doing okay, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So your kindergartner doing the phonics lesson, that's asynchronous. Your pre-K having a check-in with the teacher and a social emotional, how are you doing? That's a synchronous example. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so the rest of the presentation gets a little more technical, and so I wanted to kind of tell you most of the rest of the tips and stuff coming from this presentation, most of the research about online learning comes out of higher education. They've been focused on adult learners for a long time on online platforms. It's been around kind of more as a delivery model at that level, so a lot of the research is from there. And a lot of this stuff arguably comes from there. And I want to give that caveat that the research on K-12 online learning is newer and less developed, but they're finding similar things. And then a lot of what I'm going to share in the rest of the presentation, I did borrow it from an ASU website. So I want to give them credit. And if you want to go to their original source, it's right there. And I'll send this out to you after. I want to talk a little bit about myself and why I felt compelled to like share this and feel like I had enough knowledge to share it. I am not an expert in online learning, but I'm an adult learner with a lot of experience who's always seeking out more on online learning. I'm a Zennial, which is a micro generation between the X's and the millennials. They're also sometimes called the Oregon Trail generation, or a micro generation that came of age when computers were really starting to get into education. By the time I graduated high school, in college, I got hired on a National Science Foundation grant to really transform what online learning looked like and what engagement looked like in science and math classes at the undergraduate level. And as part of that grant, we were developing some of the first online interactive science textbooks, small digital learning interactive communities, and we were actually building apps and giving feedback on apps that demonstrated science concepts. These were 2 and 3 color apps where students manipulated a small thing and saw a change based on what would naturally happen in the real world. And then in 2005, because I had this technology experience, in 2005 to 2013, I worked at a school very similar to Century that did a blended model, right? If we think about what students do at Century, they spend some time with their teacher, but they also get a lot of content and learning directly from the Apex or the E2020, and it's very mastery based. So I was at a school very similar to Century for a long time. And then in 2013, I was ready for a change, and I got certified to teach online at K-12 and higher education through CNM. And I became an educator at CNM teaching online classes. So since 2013, I've been teaching fully online, or actually I've been teaching in the 99% model where students get live testing of their knowledge, but the rest of it has been online since then. In 2017, I was fortunate enough to go through a Quality Matters review of my online courses. Quality Matters is an organization that reviews online courses and gives best practices, and that's a very extensive process, and I don't think we're there yet, but some of this stuff I'm going to talk about comes from there. And then in 17-18, I was awarded Faculty of the Year for working with K-12 and higher ed using digital learning for dual credit classes, similar to a lot of what our students do, where one of us gives them instruction, but they also have an instructor at the VC. So that's kind of the background I bring to share this information with you. I just think it's always important to know where stuff's coming from and that I'm not just making things up or telling you as your administrator. I'm trying to give you a background as someone who's an adult learner with lots of experience. So this was a cool graphic that's kind of outlined the rest of the topics I'm going to talk about. This is from that ASU website. So we're going to talk about instructor presence, clear expectations, learning objectives, real world applications, prompt feedback, teach for online students, and engaging students. And those are going to be kind of the categories I'm going to share about, and then we'll have some Q&A after each one, or we can kind of discuss after each one. Take a breath. So here's what the resources and what I kind of had to say about instructor presence. You want to establish a teaching presence early and often. You can never over communicate, right? To communicate is to be compassionate, in the words of Ms. Rivera. So post announcements right on the front page of whatever learning management system you're using about what you want them to do. Appear on video or participate in discussions. If you're asking kids to do a discussion board, it's good to be in the discussion board with them, responding to their posts, moving the conversation forward. If you're comfortable appearing on video, they want the human connection as much as we do. Show your passion, your personality, and your expertise. This little Ralph over here from The Simpsons, I went into a teacher's canvas today and was kind of playing around looking at some people's canvases. And this teacher is really like creative and puts a lot of memes and is very humorous. And if that's your personality, then interject that into what you're putting up online. If you're more serious and you're more, put more serious things up, right? Like make sure that it represents you and your passion and expertise, not what someone else is telling you or making you feel like you need to do. Also, to establish your presence, you need to set boundaries up front with students. In this time of digital age, I find myself going home and trying to cut off all this online learning that we're doing at 3:30, and then I find myself like getting back on at 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, and that's not healthy. So you need to set clear boundaries with students about how soon you will respond, and when you'll be available for help, so that you can give yourself a balance and find balance in your life. So things like, how soon will you respond? A typical statement about how soon you'll respond to anything posted online is 24 or 36 hours during the week, and not on weekends, right? And not at midnight. So you need to really be upfront with kids about when you're going to be available and when you're going to respond, so they know what your boundaries are, and so you can have healthy boundaries in your life. And give yourself permission to unplug during off hours, right? Like, this is a long thing that we're facing. So take a break, be with your family. Don't feel like because it's digital and online that it's continuous 24 hours a day. If you're going to do asynchronous recordings to provide flexibility, 15, 20, 30, remember the whole students can only focus as long as their age. So if we're working to 15 to 18-year-olds, any kind of direct instruction recordings, I would keep it to 15 minutes and then ask them to do something with it. Remember, less is more. Recording takes a lot of resources for them to download. And you can also use videos and online resources to not have to be spending so much time recording or creating content. And then we talked about earlier, synchronous is more for office hours, social needs, helping kids, stuff like that. Again, you don't want to be available for office hours. Well, and maybe, 1 for 5 hours, 1 hour at a time. I think when I wrote that, right? So you can have balance in your life. Don't make a 4-hour office window because you need to eat, you need to go to the bathroom. If you're going to say, I will be quick to respond to you between 10 and 11, hop on and send me questions. Just set those boundaries and those expectations, whatever they are, with your students. Any questions about those ones? Is there a chat? Am I missing a chat? Does anybody want to unmute and ask a question?
Quickly, again, that 6-step phonics lesson that my kid is going through, it's like each video ends up being like 26 minutes, and we do not do it all in 26 minutes because he's 5 and Rose is concurring. She agrees 15 minutes or less. 15 minutes, guys. Like, it's when they are sitting in front of you for 26 minutes, their brains shut off anyway, and they get on their phones or they start thinking about something else and they get off task. So just with it's that 15 minutes, I think is a cap, and not daily. I don't know if he's going to talk about this, but I've had a couple of times when I've been out of the classroom. A couple of years ago, I was lucky to have Google Classroom when I was on FMLA. I was out from like mid-December and I came back end of February, came back for a couple weeks in there. And I was lucky because what I did is I gave my kids like checklists, and I would say, these are the things that you need to accomplish this week. They were reasonable. And it was by giving them a checklist. It wasn't a daily assignment. It was like, these are the 2 to 3 things that are very, very clear. And my kids were able to accomplish it because they could approach it how they wanted to approach it. There was a lot of choice involved, how they went about getting those assignments done. It wasn't like they had to do them in a specific order. I think, Eric, that's a great idea. Like, giving kids a checklist and being really crystal clear about these are the parts that will help them to be more successful.
Right. So I kind of reordered the slides just to kind of naturally go in there. So help students dive into the content, providing them with a detailed syllabus. Well, in this case, syllabuses have already gone out, right? Like you've already set your year at a glance. But like Lacey was saying, that weekly to-do list, weekly schedule, weekly, here's the 3 things I need you to do in this order, posted up front. Due dates, be compassionate and flexible. It's good to give suggested due dates, but leave assignments open. We all know that our kids procrastinate till the end of the grading period, quote unquote, but since there isn't really a clear end of the grading period, you know, say this is due on publicly to them, but in your brain, remember that that's more of a suggested due date. You're going to leave things open online so kids can get in and work and be in them. Clear directions on assignments. I'm going to pick on Mr. Headland. I love him to death, and he's an adult learner like me. We were putting up a discussion board, and so he just kind of put up a discussion board, and I had to say, you need to go in and put directions for the discussion board, right? You need to go in and put directions on the assignment. Clarity of directions is really important. I don't know if anybody's ever done one time in my life, I had to make a sandwich as an assignment, and we had to sit back, write directions to make a sandwich, and then they gave us sandwich making supplies, and we had to sit back to back and read our directions to the person behind us. And then we had to see what kind of sandwiches they made. You know, could they get the jar open? Could they get the peanut butter out with a knife? Had they picked up the knife? So clarity of directions, but also not too many words, right? And I have this little meme over here from Futurama that if you get too many words, people tune it out. So 100 words is a good kind of title or directions for something. If you need more than 100 to 250 words, it should be like on a Word document or on something that they download and interact with. So not to say you can't have longer instructions, but the directions of what they're supposed to do need to be short and sweet, but clear and to the point.
Claire, that's a good question.
Yeah.
What about like background information or something like that when you're introducing the assignment? What would you suggest on that?
So I wouldn't post it directly on your learning system. I would have it as some kind of like, click here to open the PowerPoint, or click here to open the part that needs to be 100 words is the click here to open blah, blah, blah that you need to do. When you open it, it can be much more than 100 or 250 words on the actual content that they're interacting with. But on your learning platform, you would want to have a link to some kind of document they open, and then that's where you go into depth and do the instruction. Does that make sense?
So for mine, if I can jump in here, I put the PowerPoint as a resource, as material, and then I put an assignment to say, read the PowerPoints, do your workbook from the PowerPoint.
Correct. That's right? Awesome. So the 100 words is better is here's your PowerPoint, read it and do the questions. That part needs to be 100 words or less.
Okay.
The PowerPoint can be whatever it is.
Put my PowerPoint as resource material, because I do the Google Classroom.
Right.
So I put resources, or I think it's like post material for them, and then I put an assignment thing.
Correct.
So, okay.
Correct.
Now, Mr. Power's question on the staff meeting never got answered. What about the zeros that we have in the gradebook from things that were due before all this happened? Do those zeros stand?
So, yeah, those zeros can stand. We kind of talked about that offline. Just be cautious about giving new zeros without contacting the family, following through, leaving things open, giving lots of time. And that leads me to my next point. Don't forget that people have 7 teachers, and they also might have siblings in the home who are expected to use the same amount of internet and the same one device. Our high school students' laptop could be what 3 or 4 people in the household are counting on to do their work on. And so to expect the same amount that you previously expected is unreasonable.
And Claire, can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah.
I wasn't part of that offline conversation about the zeros before the break, but Kay, that's a really interesting point, and I didn't see that from Mike, but you know, and I hear what Claire is saying, and also if you would have accepted late work from students after spring break,
yes,
does the situation change that, right? So like if you would typically have accepted because this student wasn't on campus, then I think that you should probably still do that because that's part of,
yeah.
right.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, I'll still accept it now and then go in and change that 0 if they want to submit any time.
Exactly. So I think that the value of a 0 sometimes is the reminder to the kid that, hey, you haven't turned this in yet. And so there is a value to putting that 0 in as that reminder of you haven't turned this in yet and you need to get it in, knowing that once you get it in, I can actually give you a grade because I can't grade something I've never seen.
Right. And I think that's when we were informed, when we were instructed way back when at the beginning of the year to put 0s in because it was used as a motivator, and then the parents see those 0s as well, and it gives a clear picture of how that student is doing at that moment instead of waiting until the end of the grading period or waiting until we get everything graded to then put 0s in. If we grade it and it's not there, that immediate 0 is a true reflection of what they're doing or not doing. So that's why
yeah, absolutely. I think you guys are right on. The message about the 0s this morning was don't just hammer a kid on a 0 on something that was due March 16th when students have been out of school this week. Yeah. Provide flexibility, do every effort to get in contact with the family, hold off on new 0s going forward until we can get everything worked out. Be mindful of who has internet and who doesn't. Remember, we have that Google sheet. I'm going to go on to the next slide. Break learning into smaller chunks. Establish a pattern of activity and due dates. So here's the weekly work. Should be clearly identified in a module or a unit or a chunk on your LMS. Establish a pattern of activity and due dates. People like predictability. I know my stuff comes out on Tuesday. I know I turn it in on Thursday. I know that I have till Sunday to ask my teacher questions or whatever. Or I have till Friday to ask questions and follow up. So establish some kind of pattern for your weeks and then tweak your pattern as needed. Describe expectations for online participation, communication, etiquette. That's mostly when you're doing discussions, right? Like how many times do you expect them to post to their peers? How long do you expect them to be? How often do you expect them to check your Canvas shell? You need to like put some stuff out about what your expectations are to be successful. Provide technical support information. We kind of touched on that briefly. They need to learn how to use the LMS, like Miss Allen said in the side box, just as much as we do, or they need help on how to use Zoom just as much as we do. So think about that. My little pictures over here, your learning management system, whether it be Google Canvas, Google Classroom, or Canvas, is not your personal file cabinet. So it shouldn't say things like unit tests and have like a whole chunk of unit tests. Instruction right here, week, bell ringers over here. It should be more time sequential or unit sequential in the organization and the ordering of things. And so think about it from the kids' perspective. What do I do first? What do I do second? What do I do third? What do I do fourth? So that's my little, not your filing cabinet, but this beautiful like experience for the students where things are in the order students need to see them in. And remember that all the LMSs have a student view where you can see sometimes what you're seeing and what they're seeing is different. It's important to check what did the students see by pushing that button and visually looking at what it looks like from their perspective. And then one of our Las Lunas high school teachers said, I turned off everything from first semester or from early in the semester that they don't need to see during this time that they're trying to go fully online. So if it's from a month ago or 2 months ago or 3 months ago and it's not relevant to today's learning, hide it or turn it off or make it invisible so that it's really clear what they need to be accessing and not accessing. Any questions on that one? I can't see everybody, so I guess I should scroll down and see.
Can we do that from Google Classroom? Can we hide like the previous assignments and previous material and things that they don't need? Can we do that in Google Classroom?
Does anybody know the answer to that?
I will open mine up right now and look into it while Claire is talking, and then I'll let you know.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Oh, look at the sleeping baby. I just switched groups. Okay, and this next one arguably might be something that you tackle later on, but motivate students by making real world connections to what, you know, the kids always say, like, what am I going to use this for? My kids, I just grabbed this But Why from NPR podcasts. My kids have been really enjoying these. They kind of link to what does this topic have to do with, like, why am I learning this? You know, as you're looking for outside resources, this is an easy time to make connections to the real world that were harder to make during live instruction, because they can go out to a real source and hear from primary sources and from people besides you about why your content is important. I did read some social media today where parents were concerned about the sheer number of every teacher starting with an assignment on coronavirus and the social emotional toll that takes on children. So if you haven't already put it out there, there was some request from parents not to have 7 teachers assigning their very first assignment get on and talk about coronavirus. That's just something I thought I'd mention. Learning objectives. Learning objectives and alignment matters. It shouldn't just be a scatterbrained, here's a bunch of stuff to do, worksheets I pulled from everywhere. Really think about what's essential to your students and your content, and less is more, quality over quantity. Pick some quality activities that really have to do with your class and will move students learning forward, and assign 1 or 2 things a week or 3 or 4, you know, less is more. And making sure that it's aligned to what your standards and content is versus stuff to fill their time. So this was a teacher's canvas that I went and pulled, and they had kind of said, hey, what do you think about this? And you'll see they have the week dated here, and they have like an introductory thing and a journal, and then they have an actual activity, and that's their whole week's work. So really try and make sure that you're sharing objectives and that are content objectives, and that you're aiming for content objectives, but you're not spray and praying, right? Like, I think one time I took a friend who had really bad credit to go look for a car, and the very first car dealership said, sign this form. And what they did was they sent out for like a loan request to 100 companies, hoping one would come back and lend him enough money for a car. We don't want to be sending out 100 assignments and hoping we get one back. Really try and think about what can be meaningful in the time that students have available to them and align it to your course. Another thing students need is prompt feedback to improve their outcomes. So feedback helps reinforce materials, concepts, skills. Provide timely feedback can help them apply or change course or keep learning. But set boundaries, like we talked about earlier. How quickly will you respond? Will you do it on weekends? Will you not do it on weekends? Will you only do it during the day hours? Will you do it other hours? You're kind of setting your own hours at this point, but just be clear and upfront with students about what your hours are, so they're not getting frustrated when they don't get a response at midnight. And then follow up with phone calls or emails to students that are missing work. We kind of talked about that. Instead of giving zeros, you know, get in touch and be flexible and compassionate, right? We know that we have, what did I say, we're at like about 103 families with no internet just at the high school. So you're gonna have to be flexible and compassionate with those kids while you're also providing feedback and advice and responses. Earlier, remember I talked about if you're doing a discussion board, get in the discussion board and participate in the discussion just like you would in class to move it forward. Any
Claire.
questions? Yeah.
Yeah. I know earlier in the year, the student emails through llschools.net were not working. So have you guys enabled all of those to
No, we
facilitate
have
communication,
not.
or what's
I
the
guess
latest
what I mean by emails is we collected all those parent emails as we made those phone calls to our advisory kids.
Yeah.
So if you have a kid that's not submitting work, you can go on to our shared Google document and you can look up and see, do they have internet? Are they in the group of kids that we're troubleshooting? Are they in the group of kids with no internet? But if you find them on that list where they have internet and a working device in their home, email their parent. We now have current parent emails that they just gave us this last week and that they're looking for stuff on. So that email is maybe email to parents.
And can I interrupt real quick? Two things. One, it seems like having Remind would have been nice all along. And if you don't have Remind, we will create a Zoom so that we can walk people through setting up Remind. That'll be one of our topics coming up. The other thing is, there was another thing. Oh, phone calls go a long way. So, and one of the things that people didn't really know, Claire, last week or this week, God, it's been a long time. When people were trying to phone numbers by dialing *67 and then the phone number. So Kay, I know there's concern about calling from your personal number.
Oh no, I did all that because I did all my phone calls before the *67 thing.
Okay.
But I'm a San Antonio number. So that was my thing, was a lot of called me back. So, and some of them were brave and answered a strange phone number. So I really didn't have any problem getting my advisory kids, but I like that *67 now. And I also did the Remind but setting up a class on Remind is so much easier than I thought it would be, because I set up a HOSA ILC Remind before we left, and because I wanted to target those kids. So setting Remind up is really, if I can figure it out, it's really easy. Just saying.
So the one thing I want to say on this feedback, not just feedback for students who aren't doing work, but feedback for students who are doing work. There's a lot of creative ways. In this time of where you're not there to have interactions with students, it's important that they get more than a 67. Your work is a 67 back from us, right? They need to get some written or verbal or markup feedback on their work. And Tamara, Rose, Lacey can give you lots of ideas. Canvas has ways to do that. I'm sure Google Classroom has ways to provide more than that. But students need feedback to improve their learning, and they need more than just a grade on their work. So that's something to think about as work starts coming in. Engage students. So we already kind of talked about create educational experiences that are challenging, enriching, and extend. Provide opportunities to interact with peers through group work, discussion work, discussion questions. But remember, less is more, meaningful over quality or over quantity. So that's all I had. Is there any other questions, comments, things we want to ask Tamara, Rose, while we have experts in the room besides me?
You know, I actually like what you're talking about. When you're talking about the 15 minutes, we can sit back and reflect when we give a presentation to a kid. That 15 minutes, if we give like a little video or something like that, 15 minutes might actually be what we do in a whole day. but with the kids interacting, that's what inflates the whole day. So the difference is going to be the kids are going to have whatever that little bit of instruction is. They're going to be expanding that themselves just by going back to it. It's when I look at what Sal does on his Khan Academy stuff, I noticed that he hardly ever goes over 10 minutes on one of his little videos. So you can compress an awful lot of material in there without overloading the kid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Claire, Kay's not there. Kay, are you here? I was going to answer Kay's question. I'll wait until she comes back.
Still here.
Okay. Kay, you asked the question about whether or not, can I share my screen?
Yes, I think so.
Do I share?
There's a little green blob on the bottom.
Oh, see that?
Square with an arrow. Click on that.
And then I share, I'm going now to my Google Chrome. Can you guys see this? So I'm in Google Classes. This is the Google Classroom that we used last year. I could go to my pre-AP class from a very long time ago, but it's going to have like old stuff, right? And then when I go to classwork, my classwork, you can see, and I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to a different class because I think I've done a little bit more with this. So here's the staff Google Classroom. When I go to classwork, and I'm just experimenting right now, and I have to move something. When I go to, I have organized things by topic. Now, if you're using Google Classroom, one of the things Claire said is we should be organizing based on like modules. We need to chunk purposefully. We need to make sure that there's information that's grouped together. So whether that's, and I was working with a math teacher yesterday, and he was like, well, it's chapter 9. And I said, okay, well, what are they learning in chapter 9? They don't have you there to reiterate that it's different, maybe whatever. I don't even know math words, but like, what are the topics? What's the common language? What's the big essential question? What's the unit, right? That when we talk about modules, we're talking about units. Now that might be too much for some people. So I've heard JJ, one of our occupational therapists, he says, even if people were grouping by like weeks, right? So like weeks 1 through 3, March 16th through April 5th, or whatever it is, right? So this big chunk of time, what's the unifying piece? But I think, and you've heard Claire say this, the best practice is to chunk according to what it is that they're learning so that they're making connections in what they're learning. Anyway, this is what I have, and in order to do that in Google Classroom, this is where Canvas is a little bit better than Google Classroom. In Google Classroom, you have to do it by topic. In Canvas, you can create modules, right? And you can add links within specific modules. So let's just say I want to have the most, okay, this is what I would do in my Google Classroom. I would obviously have I would have this in reverse chronological order. So the things that are most pertinent, the things that are current, they go to the top, right? So this isn't something I care about anymore because, I don't know, evaluations are over. So I'm going to move that down, right? And I'm going to reorganize this in some way. That would be one thing that I would do. Now, in terms of hiding previous information, you can delete it. I wouldn't do that. I would just move things down, and I would be really purposeful about the topic.
So how do you clump this stuff together? Because like I did a unit on like public service announcement, vaping.
Yep.
So how would I put all that? That could be my big topic, but how do I put all that stuff in this?
When you're creating the assignment, when you're creating whatever it is that you're creating. So here's create. Yes. And let's just say it was not material, something I wanted them to have. If this, you post the handout and let's call it, I can add or create videos, got it. I'm going to call this vaping PSA resources, right? And this is a brief description, blah, blah, blah. And over here, I'm choosing which class it's going to be. And I just need to make this a little bit smaller because I can't see it all. I'm going to choose which class it's going to be, which students are getting it. And then notice here where it says topic, and then it says no topic. I can choose my topics here. These are topics I previously created, or I'm just going to create a topic, right? So here I create the topic, and everything here is coming in like public service announcement vaping, right? Or I just leave, like, maybe it's a whole unit on different issues that come up, and this is all public service announcement. So now when I post that, there's going to be under classwork, where did it go? Sorry, guys. Under classwork, my public service announcement is all the way at the bottom. I think I can even click and drag it. Oh gosh, this is amazing. So I'm going to click all the way to the top. We're going to just move it. We're going to move it to the top. And that's what I would do.
And what I love about Lacey saying should move it all the way to the top, right? Remember, if I'm a student who's going in here and seeing Lacey's online learning management system, I don't know to scroll to the bottom. I don't know what's important, but I'm likely to click on the first thing, or I'm likely to click on it if it says the date right there at the top. So I know where I'm going.
And what your kids will see when they first come in, they're going to see this stream, right? So what they see is that I recently posted new material. So they're going to see the most recent stuff. You can see I haven't edited anything here since October 22nd, user that you are welcome to find. So this is what kids would see. Right. Instead of focusing on this, going to where it says classwork, because here they're going to be able to see if there is an assignment due and they haven't done it. They'll be able to see that there's a due date. This doesn't have a due date next to it because it was just material. But if it were due, or if it were late, or if it were coming up, it's going to be right here.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Cool. I'm going to stop sharing now unless anyone has any other questions about Google Classroom.
Awesome. Well,
does anybody want to see some Canvas examples, or do you want to wait till Monday when we have a Canvas Q&A specifically, or any other questions we can answer?
We're going to do one on Monday for Canvas?
Yes.
Yes. On Monday, it's going to be bring your Canvas questions directly, whatever, like nitty gritty. So there's no direct instruction on Monday. It's more like a, how do I do this? Can you help me do that? Can you help me do this? Can you talk me through that? It's more like a support session on Monday. That's what we're planning.
Okay.
And also, you know, myself, Ms. Rivera, we're available by phone or text at any time if you get stuck on Canvas.
And this may be a good time. Remember, I said in our staff meeting, start thinking about what specific topics you need support with. This may be a good time to start getting a running list going, Ms. Toledo. She had mentioned, I mean, we have Miss Allen, we have the entire ed tech department online with us right now, which is kind of amazing. Thank you so much for supporting our teachers. It's just like, God bless Los Lunas schools. What a cool thing. Anyway, so if you, I heard Captain Headland say it's going to be on Canvas. If there's already something, we can do some differentiated, like I could think about Ms. Roberts being like, okay, I already know the basics of Canvas. I want to know, how do I highlight student voice? How do I make sure my kids are getting some SEL while they're social emotional learning, connectedness, seeing one another, talking to one another. Let's talk about Flipgrid, or let's talk about videos, or let's talk about things they can do with their phone and upload remotely, right? Because maybe they don't have internet at home. versus, okay, I'm brand new to Canvas. How do I create an assignment? So we can do some differentiated stuff, but I'd like people to start sharing with us.
I'm at the beginning. If it wasn't for Claire, I wouldn't even have any assignments in there. So anything from the basics on up would help.
We got you, Mr. Headland.
We'll get there. I might drive the kids crazy, but we'll get there.
Anything else anybody else would like?
And Claire, I think we can send out a survey too. And I think sometimes we don't know what we don't know. Yeah. So what people need is going to emerge over time. So I think it's just important that we I like the idea of holding we've been doing, and Tamara and Rose are just phenomenal because they've been on campus every Monday afternoon that we haven't had HRS. And they've been there with people who drop by with questions. And so it'd be cool to have just like a drop-in, like, hey, we're going to be available for these 2 hours. These are our tech office hours, and let's just address wherever anyone's at. And then from there, Claire, we can start doing like mini, just if this is what we're doing, and if you want to come, and we'll be available.
Mm-hmm. That sounds great.
Do you know anything? Hey, real quick question about Canvas gradebook thing. Is there going to be a way for Canvas gradebook to be linked to Power Teacher still, or are we still doing it the way that we have been doing it?
They had a button I was able to link, I thought.
Okay, so that button is not live, Mr. Headland. So it won't take grades from Canvas and move it over. You have to manually re-enter the other system.
All right.
There was plans to move forward with that, but the Canvas task force is kind of on hold, right, Miss Allen?
That's correct. Right there, that was mentioned by the task force from the high school level. Claire specifically brought that up in terms of buy-in using, yes, and Chris Garcia. In terms of using, really getting teachers on board and the buy-in for Canvas, that would be really supportive. So it's not that we are not supporting that. We definitely want to do it. It's a matter of making sure that all teachers are on board in terms of grading practices and systems. And then once administration and the district IT says it's good to go, then it will be good to go. Unfortunately, it won't happen during this time frame when we're dealing with everything else that's present in our nation right now. And I also want to say thank you all very much for being able to come and join this session, and thank you to Claire and her team, because we know this is very stressful for you. It's emotional for you. You have family and loved ones that are not here with you, and we just want to thank you for doing what's best for kids, and that's coming from
Anything else? Well, I think we've elapsed our time. It might even cut us off soon because this is my first Zoom. So we'll be sending this out by email to our staff here at the high school. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Claire, before you go, hey, Coach Zeller brought up a really important point, which was do all district teachers have access to the list of students that do not have internet access? And I would go a step further than Coach Zeller. I bet we have some teachers at home that don't have internet access. And I know that sounds weird because we're all here, but I bet there are some teachers who don't have internet access at home. And I think in the same way that the district has reached out to all students, I think reaching out to all staff members. So thinking about who wasn't able to attend, our 76 participants today at our staff meeting earlier today was pretty awesome. Who wasn't there? Who didn't we see? Can we reach out to them via a phone call? Let's model the same things we're asking teachers to do with students, because our staff members, we're learners too, and they may not have been there because they didn't have the accessibility, right? So Coach Zeller, thank you for bringing that point up.
Yeah, and we've been in touch with 3 or 4 staff members that are having internet issues, either because they live in an area with low speed Wi-Fi, or they're out in a remote part, or they're quarantined somewhere. We are starting to look at supporting those staff members as well. That was discussed at our admin meeting this morning.
And also, Claire, I know we want to thank Los Angeles High School as well. I've got Mike Good just walked in. Say hi, Mike. Los Angeles High
Hey.
School.
Hi, Mike.
What's happening?
Not much.
Oh, it's an ed tech meeting then, right?
No.
No.
Claire, what type of meeting is it?
So I've been kind of helping our teachers understand some best practices for online teaching and learning.
Oh, great. And what are they?
I'll send you the webinar.
Thank you.
All right, very cool.
So there was a question that Coach Zeller brought up regarding, our staff. Some of our staff members don't have access to Wi-Fi or internet.
Right.
And that was brought up this morning during our conversation as well.
Right.
And we are looking at that and how we can support them. So the more we know, the better prepared we can be. So as you speak to your colleagues, please let us know. We're trying to support them as well.
Yep. Yeah. Do you guys have a sense for how many staff members we're talking about that don't have internet access?
We have about 3 or 4 that are having issues. Some of them are stuck in places outside of Las Lunas, and some of them are in remote areas.
Do some of them have cell access where they're at, like a cell provider on their phone?
I believe so. So we're kind of working.
So the first thing I would have them do, if they're kind of out in Timbuktu, so to speak, then they can contact their cell provider and see if they can add a hotspot to their phone. T-Mobile and Verizon, I think, are both having specials right now, but you'd have to call whichever provider you have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sounds good, and we'll be in touch. Coach Zeller, back to your question too about who doesn't have internet. That same sheet where we were entering our advisory calls on, we've been maintaining that up to date. So I retitled one of the tabs like Ready to Learn. We're pushing 1,200 students that are ready to learn right now, out of our low 1,300s. So there's about 100 students that we're still working with to get them all set up. Hi, Marissa.
Oh, those are your grandkids. Okay, thanks.
Oh, there's Lacey's grandkids, and there's Heather's daughter, and Paola's baby.
Aww.
Well, I think we're going to wrap this up. If anybody else has any questions, speak now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Good luck,
Great
everybody.
job.